could introduce themselves and make a comment about what is truth.
I'm Greg Todd. I'm also an activist. Trying to stall the people's branch of the government, as Antonin Scalia saw it. Antonin Scalia, the justice just passed in a case, United States versus Williams, 1992, realized that our government's been taken over from the inside. The bar controls every branch of our government, and said that we should be the fourth branch of government, the people's branch. We should have the right to manage all other branches of government. And we, the people, have no say-so, really, in this government. The parties pick our representatives.
What was the job of
It's true. So I'm just who I am, and then moving on.
Normally we try to stay away from politics in this
Okay.
group.
Yeah, there's
Politics.
Because I want truth in politics, you're right.
Politics and infidelity and.
It comes to high controversy.
I was introducing myself, that's all.
emotionally charged.
Okay, I guess I said what I said before, I'll say it again. You said there is no controversy in the truth. I say there is. I say truth is in the eyes of the beholder, and one person's truth is not necessarily another person's truth. So I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I think 42
My name's Robert Moran, and truth is however a person sees it as his truth. Now, this is a philosophy group. This isn't a group of telling somebody else what they think. This is, you can put your ideas on the table, but you cannot have a philosophy discussion if we're going to demand that our truth is correct, because each person has their own reality as we see it, and everything there.
Well, I think you covered it there. Okay, who's true? Who's defining it? Unless you define it, I don't know whether we agree or not. On what issue, where, when, how. I think truth is for us to judge whether it fits our experiences or not. There is a problem with people claiming out of their psyche a truth that's supposed to fit you, and we end up killing each other over it. But we also benefit from it because there are truths like the shift of continents, for example. Nobody seems to believe in continental drift. This is a classic thing in scientific arguments where you find some fact doesn't fit, you claim that makes it untrue, and yet you work on it and you find a way that it does eventually. So it has both good and bad features. I'm done. Your turn, Carol.
Self-explanatory. It's how you see it, I guess.
That is
On with Q. What Q said. Okay, you're number. I think Q said it absolutely right.
I agree that truth is in the eye of the beholder. My truth is going to be certainly different from other people's truth. People claim things, and they claim that they have the truth, the way, they follow me. I alone can do things that other people can't, but that's other people's truth. I also like Stephen Colbert's truthiness. It feels good, and in your gut, and if you don't stand the facts, there's the truth. So it could be anything you want, and the system is rigged.
Amen.
Well, I'm with you also. I mean, I don't hold to anything except for what I've experienced, and if I'm able to record it exactly like that, then that is the truth as far as that experience goes.
For me, truth is whatever is the scientific knowledge of the time, or whatever God tells me. You're right.
You look like Moses.
That was John. I'm Sonny. I'm Ronna.
The thing about truth that bothers me is that it's not always based on facts.
Of course.
That's all.
Yeah, and in keeping with what she said, I agree with most of what she said. Keeping with what she said, it's not always based on facts, but also science. Excellent example for me. Science, we put a lot of faith in that because it's the truth today. And as new information comes in to enhance it or maybe just make it not so true anymore, our species has learned so much, and what we used to think 100 years ago as true isn't today, just because of newer knowledge. And the same goes for me in my personal life and how I am spiritually. What I used to think of as a child is not the same as what I think of today. It's broader, more cosmic, different. I'm Gail, but
Thank you. Gary, I think truth is the rarest commodity we have, because when you tell the truth, you're exposing yourself, the deepest parts of yourself. That's not just how you think externally, but how you feel. And I think we all feel very vulnerable when we expose ourselves to that extent. So we tailor our truth to the circumstance, I think.
I'm Alan, short for Alan Leroy. One thing maybe a lot of you'd like to, well, you wouldn't like to know it, but in any case, John Sircan's stepdaughter died in France. So anyway, but somebody a lot of us know.
Did he go to France?
Yeah, I think you could all go to France.
Yeah, Dominique's in France.
Yes.
But anyway, Oscar Wilde said the truth is often complex. And, you know, it's interesting because when I'm swimming, I look out at nature, and there are all these little creatures, and then I think about atomic theory and everything, and I think, my God, the world is so much more complex in its construction than anybody ever imagined a few hundred years ago. And, you know, much of what we poo-poo in the teaching of the past is that it was really an oversimplification, and I think most of us understand that today.
My name is Andy, and I'm an activist here too. I'm with Charlotte County COPWATCH. We hold the police and sheriffs accountable. And the truth is, in my opinion, we're in a banana republic, and that's all I got.
I'm Ricardo. Like Alan said, it's complicated because there's too many circumstances that could change it. To me personally, I gather all the information I can, and my conclusion to that information, that's the truth. That's it.
My name's Jim, and that's the truth. That's pretty cool. My driving license says so. This is my first day always, first time here.
So, thank you for being here. It seems I'm here to observe, and I suspect from what I've heard so far, aren't we lucky to be around long enough to want to know the truth?
yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Mark Ellison, and I like a lot of what I heard, but I have a tough time with my truth and your truth idea. I think truth is truth. Either it's true or it's false. We don't always know what it is, and sometimes we don't know it for a long time. But we have to go on what we think at the moment, and hopefully we get a consensus and not just think that my truth is different than everybody else's. But there's some other people also that think like I do. Then we can start thinking that that's more maybe what the truth is going to be, or it is now, and that's it.
I guess what I was going to say was when I grew up with my grandmother, and from 3 years old through 9, and you did not tell anything but the truth or you pay for it. So as I got older, I realized that you could manipulate truth a little bit.
Are you a lawyer?
No, not married one.
Yeah.
It depends on the person. My name is Sheila, by the way. What you think? It comes from within. Your own truth comes from within. But you could have fooled me on that election. That to me was the biggest gift God ever gave this country. That's the end I have to say.
No,
I
you
mean,
shouldn't have brought it up.
honestly, oh my God.
We're not gonna go
I don't believe there is such a thing as truth outside of the part that says this water bottle will fall if I let go of it. I think truth is a constantly changing concept, and it changes minute by minute, second by second, depending on the ideology and the composition of the person who's thinking about it.
I'm Dave. I have two sisters that are much older than I am. We get together occasionally and reminisce about our childhood. And it is so amazing how much we've distorted and warped and convoluted, and no, it was me that did that, no, it was you, to the point where we don't try to correct it anymore. The truth is the three of us getting together and reminiscing. That's the real truth, I think. I went to bed Tuesday night with one truth, got up Wednesday morning with another. I had my life figured out. And suddenly it's spring time. And I'll be damned. Truth is in the eye of the beholder, and often in the several eyes of the same beholder, I think. It's a very complicated mess.
I looked up the word in the dictionary.
Didn't help either, did it?
No.
I looked it up in two different dictionaries.
Actually, I did find it to be helpful. The first definition is that which is true in accordance with fact and reality. So, put in your mind reality. What is reality? Is what you're experiencing at this moment in time. You're sitting in these chairs because gravity is holding you down, and it's the mass of the earth that's causing you to not float away into space, but to be here on earth. So the reality is that you're subject to an objective truth. The physics of your body is in play. You have to breathe air, you have to digest food to live. If either of those things are not present, you die. There are many, many things that are true in our reality that actually support life itself. Technology, science is based on empiricism, which is based on the sensory perception. So truth is derived from seeing, observing, testing, retesting, engineering, and technology. When you get in the car, some engineer designed that car based on physics, based on material science. That's real stuff. That's not somebody's opinion. The strength of that vehicle, the power, the torque, it's all scientifically defined through formula and based on scientific principles. That is hard truth. That exists. The other definition goes in another direction. It says a fact or belief that is accepted as truth. A belief can be a truth. So if you're in an enclosed system, like a religious order or a political order or a hobby of some sort, you have a belief system, and now your truths are based on the rules that are defined by that culture or that ecosystem. So we've got two things in play. We've got reality and we've got culturally defined truth, and that's where the conflict comes in. Now, we can get into epistemology, how you know truth,
It's an important concept. Who do you accept as a good channel of truth? Think about the news stations, your news sources. That becomes your source of knowing truth and defining what truth is, and it can shape your entire outlook. So that's another consideration that you have to explore. My name is Joseph, by the way. This is my daughter, Anna.
So I believe that what we've been talking so far is, as truth goes, is what we believe truth is, and I believe that when you talk about the objective truth and your cultural truth, our cultural truth is biased and warped, and I agree with what David said, as there is my truth, there's your truth, and there's the real truth. And each of us, we never remember the same thing the exact same way twice. It goes through it never travels through our brain the same way. So our truth is constantly changing as to what we truly believe it is. And I can't go off of every experience that I have, because I obviously haven't experienced that much, but I've been told what truth is, and therefore I believe that truth. Like, I believe that the earth is round because people tell me that the earth is round. I have never walked my entire way around the world. I've only seen the picture of the earth as a round being, and they tell me that that's what the earth is, so I believe that's what it is. So you can't go off of everything that you experience, because you can't experience everything.
Very good.
That's very good.
Yeah, I'm impressed. Smart girl.
I've been listening and I've been hearing a lot about the truth.
What's your name?
Oh, I'm Dave Kesselring. I'm also an activist, smaller government type of person, transparency and freedom. I've been listening, and truth is based on an opinion or feeling. It doesn't seem like the philosophy of truth or the truth of truth that I've heard would even exist. It seems like a self-refuting argument. If you're saying that truth is based on feeling, then what you're saying could just be based on feeling. So I don't really get that argument too much, but I do have some definitions. When I look for definitions, I tend to look back further for the original intent, maybe, of the definitions. I hope you don't get offended, because this was from 1828 and they were a little different than we are. I'll just read a few of these. Conformity to fact or reality, exact accordance with that which is, or has been, or shall be. The truth of history constitutes its whole value. We rely on the truth of the scriptural prophecy. This was from Wesley. He also gives some scriptures. True state of facts or things. The duty of a court of justice is to discover the truth. Witnesses are sworn to declare the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Conformity of words to thoughts, which is called moral truth. Veracity, purity from falsehood. Practice of speaking truth, habitual disposition to speak truth, as when we say a man is a man of truth. Correct opinion. I would say that would be opinion based on evidence, maybe, rather than facts. Fidelity, constancy, honesty, virtue, exactness, conformity to rule. There's a few more, but I'll go on. Thank you.
That conformity
Wait a minute.
to the spreading name.
Wow.
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, someone that knows the name.
I'm not sure about people.
Yeah, I'm not sure about my name.
Harry, I don't know your name.
Greg Cobb.
Greg.
Dave.
Dave. The rest of you.
There's another one there.
What's your name?
Leo.
Oh, Leo. That's a new name. Okay, John. On the table. What was your name? I forgot.
Andy.
Andy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The thing that kind of stuck in my craw there was conformity. Everybody could have agreed that the world was flat. That didn't make it flat. To me, it's the science that we know at the time. I agree science changes. But the point is, if we don't know what the truth is, it's still the truth. The earth has been round. The earth will be round until the sun swallows it up. The point is, we can think anything we want in our society, in our religion, in our group. That doesn't change the fact that the earth is round. If I drop something, I can say evil spirits pulled it down, I can say God pulled it down, I can say my mother-in-law wished it to be that way. It doesn't matter. It's still gravity that does it. So I think there are certain things that we have to rely on, whether we know them or not. Eventually, they've been discovered over the years.
Awfully steroid.
Yeah, pear-shaped.
Okay, Dave.
You know, we said the world is round. In truth, we now know the world is a slightly ovoid phenomenon. You know what? I'm serious. That the distance from the center,
Yes, I know that.
and
And
the
global
global
warming
warming
has changed.
is longer than it is to the pole.
We didn't say it was a sphere, we said it was round.
When I was in school, I learned a whole shitload of physics and chemistry and organic chemistry and all those things. I think probably 90% of what I was taught in school as the truth no longer holds. Because I'm 70 years old, and in the last 50 years, a whole lot has evolved and changed and continues to change. So the truth is where you find it in the moment. I used to have a professor that said, if you're looking in textbooks, it's outdated. You're outdated. You have to read the latest journals. And even then, it takes 6 months, not 3 months to get it. And it's always evolving. Talk about memory and truth. You know, Hillary remembers bullets whizzing over her head in
No politics.
Bosnia or whatever. Everybody else that was there remembered brass bands and little girls with flowers. Trump remembers Muslims in New Jersey happy and demonstrating because of 9/11. Probably he was watching some foreign film, but he was thinking of the guys in New Jersey, and he remembers that. Bill never had sex with that woman, and never and we all remember what it is we remember. As for absolutism, I don't think there's a place for it, because it's evolving constantly as we watch. And the longer we live, the faster it's evolving.
Yes.
There's no there, except that you watch.
Yeah, might be off.
You know, I found that, I'm living a somewhat reclusive life except for this.
Gotta get up more.
And I don't want to. See, because you see, we all, like someone said before, we all formulate a truth that we can live with.
Yeah.
The only time we have trouble is when we try to find someone else's truth that agrees with ours. Every once in a while you find somebody who thinks like you, and it feels so good, right? For the most part, most people don't, because we all come to our own conclusions, you know? So I live with 2 dogs. They don't question me much. I don't have peace most of the time. So, I don't seek to successfully hear what I know I'm going to argue. I try not to seek the truth with anyone else, because their truth is different than mine. And I always say to people, why do you care what anyone else thinks? Because, I mean, not today, but I'll use an example, doesn't fit today so much. Half the people I met said, you're too fat. The other people said, you're too skinny, right? So, does it matter? I mean, everyone's perception is slightly different. You know, I'm sorry, wrong. I was reading a book once, if you want to read it, it's a really good book. It's called The World Through Blunted Sight. Okay? It's written by a ophthalmologist and a psychiatrist. And what he did was he took some standards that we all accept as the truth. And he said, we accept the fact that if you're standing at a traffic light, the guy next to you is 6'7" with red hair and green eyes, and, you know, that you have a genetic difference, right? But you never think that when we all say, what we see on a traffic light, red, green, and blue, red, green, and yellow, that we all see the same thing. We all agree that the light on top is whatever is red. There's no way of proving that. Some people hear more than others do. Some taste more than others do. So when we compare notes, what we're saying is, this is my truth. And you're trying to convince the other person, and they don't see or hear or smell or taste like you do, they're going to fight vehemently because they really don't hear the same thing. Because we are all genetic, our senses are genetically different. Yeah. And one last thing, the impressionist, if I know what the impressionist art is, over at the Visual Arts Center, he had a big bamboo stick that he takes his brushes. He wanted the canvas to be out of focus as much as the scene. It wasn't an evolved style. He just couldn't see. So how many of us are going through life wondering why the other person just did that? Doesn't make sense to us, because we're picking up all different details than they are, or we're not picking up details. So it's really just, we subject ourselves to this kind of discussion about truth, because we're masochists. So to stay home alone, don't even see you.
Ray, did you say your name?
Greg, yeah, Greg.
Greg.
Greg, yeah, Gregory.
Greg the retard?
You're up.
Todd, whatever fits.
You're up.
You're up. I'm up.
Yeah.
I'm already talking.
Yeah,
No, I'm Amanda. No, it's Amanda.
You didn't raise
I already
your
went
hand.
around you. No, scratch.
All right, then,
The
the date?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the dangers of not seeing punctuations of a reader. I apologize. When you saw conformity to rule, the actual definition started with exactness and had a semicolon, and they're talking about conformity to the rule of exactness. That makes a little more sense?
Yes.
Sorry.
You didn't need to be that sad.
We're gonna hold it.
Because we don't even remember what it
Find truth, you gotta have it.
But I will say, I didn't hear anybody in this room say that truth was based on their feelings. I did hear about their beliefs. I did hear about their beliefs. And I actually don't understand why people can't honor those words like belief and faith, they are so inclined to, and hold them at a high level. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with people having beliefs and faith in their religion, for instance. But to claim it as truth is where it gets murky for me, but it doesn't get murky for them. So I can understand for those people when they claim that belief or faith is their truth. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 activists in the room. I'm a social activist. I've been an activist for a long time. I have a feeling that we're not the same sort of activists. We might be. Who knows? Maybe the American Freedom Farm might be something we might agree with.
Robert.
I'm going to argue with John.
Yes, my favorite John.
John and I have quite a different agreement on what is going on. And he tells me that the earth is round. That's the facts. No. Well, I'm not going to get into those oval details.
He's from West Virginia, and it ain't wrong there.
That's true. But in 1300, if you would have tried to tell someone that the earth was round, they would have probably burned it. Because you stop, and I want you to stop and think about, go back to 1300, and how did the belief that the earth is flat affect anyone's life? hardly at all.
Revelation.
It didn't, huh?
Revelation talks about the ends of the earth.
Yeah,
Four
corners of the earth.
That's where the idea came from.
I understand that, yeah, I got that. But the idea that if you just try to transport yourself back to that time, it didn't make any damn difference if you thought the earth was flat or round, because you still live your life. Now, actually, there were some guys in Egypt that figured out that the earth was round in like 300 BC. And not only did they figure out it was round, they figured out within 200 or some miles the diameter
Yes.
of the earth. And but I would suggest that they wouldn't tell anybody. But you stop and think about, if these guys would have said something, it would be like they were nuts, like to look at Galileo, just finding another planet, and moons going around Jupiter. My God, that was enough to hold him in house arrest. If he wasn't so popular, he would have burned him too. So that was, and that's the Pope's truth, see? So that is the truth, as far as they're concerned. And there's been some really good discussion here so far. Really, I like this way. This corner over here, these two are really here. Wow.
You done, Robert?
I'm done talking.
Q. I said truth was based on experience, and that's always true. If I asked you to define what is round, and you said to me it has a constant radius from the center to the outer surface, and I would say, well, how about the mountains, or how about deep? It is not true that it is round. So this is one example of how definitions can get you into trouble. So, I'm aware that I'm constantly evolving. I'm not dead yet, and I expect my thinking is still going to change, and primarily as groups like this. This is like a graduate level seminar, and I'm getting the very best thinking from people with a hell of a lot of experience. So I don't know where it's going to end up, but I don't much give a damn.
We're all in this journey together.
Bruce. Yeah, I was hearing a lot about truth. It's really interesting. I was thinking about Dave there. I think that the scientific method helps evolve the truth as far as the hard sciences is concerned, and even the soft sciences, it really does make it. But it's constantly evolving, and that's one of the things that is, I believe, the truth is evolution in thought, in animals, in anything, because our ideas of that is constantly evolving. There are people who take great stock in astrology, and they usually do it in phrenology. I mean, it depends on where you're going to put your stock into, and that's what you're going to believe, and there you go. And as Shakespeare said, that truth lies not amongst the stars, but within ourselves.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So is change then possibly the only truth?
It is the only constant. Change.
I would say.
Only constant.
It is always changing, and that's one of the basic truths anyway. We hold these truths to be self-evident, and now.
Check your watch.
Yeah, exactly.
If you jump off a building, you're always going to come back down to earth.
Unless you're in a
If
spaceship.
it's sufficiently high, you're always going to die.
Unless you're in a spaceship.
I disagree, and I still have the floor. You don't die when you jump out. It's when you land. Anyway, I would just like to say that, that you have, you pick your poison. You go to the wall of choices, and you say, take a little of this, and take a little of that, it's still part of the truthiness. This is what you like, and this is what people do pick their truth. That's why there's ABC News, CBS, NBC, and Fox. So you pick your poison. There you go.
Okay, John.
Well, I propose that there is such a thing as absolute truth. I propose that there is such a thing as absolute truth. The earth was spherical, whether they knew it or not. And if you were a fisherman and stood on the shore and watched any vessel coming and going, you knew that the earth was curved. Now, truth.
I like your percolation.
It goes well with my lace underwear. There is a pen behind this purse. Now you can't see it. The absolute truth is the pen is still here. These people can see the pen. They know there's a pen here. The absolute truth is there's still a pen behind it. Whether you know it or not doesn't matter. The absolute truth is the pen is still here. Whether you know that the earth goes around the sun or the sun goes around the earth, it's always the way it was. Our knowledge at the time doesn't matter. The truth is absolute. There are absolute truths in the universe. The universe is there. We're not sure how far the universe continues. Eventually we may come to the end and then we'll say, okay. But we can't say that there are no more stars because we can't see them. We can't say that the stars are falling from the sky like olives off a tree in the wind. No.
So do you think it's possible for man to eventually understand absolutely everything?
I don't think it matters. Whether we understand it or not, whether we all die or not, the absolute truth is still there.
You believe?
Well, that's the sun said God.
I can prove mine. Can you prove yours? I can prove mine.
All right, wait a minute, whoa. You done?
I don't know, does he have another challenge? He's still working out how big it is.
Hannah.
So, when you talk about experience with truth, does one experience necessarily cause you to believe that that's true? Like, a woman could be robbed by a black man and then therefore think that all black men are robbers, and that she experienced that. That was an experience. That was her truth at the moment, but does that make that fact? I think there's a difference between, we're talking about two different truths. What we believe to be true and what is fact. And there's a difference between the two.
One is relative and the other one isn't, subjective.
Yes. So, yeah. I guess.
Everything in between.
Yeah.
Alan.
I remember what Goebbels said, a good lie is always better than a bad truth. But, you know, we're talking about this gravity and whether the world's round and so on. It reminds me of English music halls a few years ago where they would ask, is there an Australian in the audience? And if somebody, a lot of you was Australian, everybody in the group would shout, how does it feel to be right side up?
Okay, Sheila.
Define right side. Define right side.
Well, you know,
there is no side, you're all pointing out.
Are you done, Alan?
You boys done?
well, I'm sort of medium rare, but
Sheila.
Anyway, when it comes to the truth, we're doing a lot of fact checkers. They're checking what everybody says. Is this really the truth? Did this really happen? I'm gonna bring it up, and I'll bring it up just briefly. 9/11. Did it really happen? Was it, did they blow up, or did the plane hit them, or what? What really is the truth? And we've been harboring about this for a lot of years, and I wonder if the truth ever will come out about it. If they actually will ever say, or if they're just gonna fool us like they kind of fool us last. That's all. Joe.
I know.
Okay, I took a couple of graduate courses
in University of Michigan, one taught by a positivist who was an expert in quantitative measures, a statistical genius. And a couple of things he told us. He said, when you write your papers, I only want to see in your bibliography references from people who have published in the best journals in the United States and have used good research methods. And if you cite their work, I know that your paper is of high quality and, if you will, it's truthful. It's believable because the scientific community has given it their star of approval. I took another class with a qualitative researcher, a constructivist, who believes that reality, the personal reality, is what is truthful. So in that class, the quality and interpretation of story was the most important element in determining truthfulness. Two very different ways of determining what is truthful and very different outcomes in terms of public policy. You draw conclusions on small n, the positives will tell you you are asking for trouble because that's only information drawn from a small group of people. The qualitative person will say the quantitative person is not telling the truth because they have not explored the richness of the human experience. They do not know the multidimensional aspect of the human experience, so they have a problem. So you have very two different ways of looking at truth and defining truth. Even the positivist who wants significant difference of 0.001 or better will only say that this explains the phenomenon up to 98 or 99.9%. They'll always say that they can't tell you exactly what is true because there is a small possibility that this event will not happen all of the time, but the probability is that it will. And this brings up the idea of induction, which is looking at the facts and looking at the probabilities that one explanation is better than the other based on the facts. Now, what is the consequence of everyone having their own truth? If we're in a room and we're having a discussion about climate change, and we're talking about energy policy for the United States of America, having agreement on facts is essential because we have the fate of the planet in our hands. You don't get to choose what you want to believe. You have to take the best information. So they say 97% of scientists have agreed and have written papers that support the idea that there's global warming. But some politicians say that the Chinese invented it and we don't need to do anything about it. This is when facts matter. And it matters what you believe and what you do with those facts. You just can't have your personal proof, washing over scientific fact of preponderance and probability that something is true.
Washing over what? Your house.
Washing over my house.
Dave, you're next.
In my elderly state, I call myself an artist. Gail calls herself an artist. We play this game online every day. I happen to be a male artist, and as a male artist, about 20 to 30% of men have real trouble with blue-green color blindness and differentiation. Something like 5 or 7% of men have trouble with green-red differentiation, by the way. So if I show her a spectrum of 30 colors, she'll see sometimes 32. So there are women that have visual capability beyond what we think the spectrum is. We can see and can go into what we call the infrared. It's interesting. Men never have that. So here I am drawing pictures.
You can't You just said 0.001's not possible.
I'm drawing pictures, and I like blues and greens a lot, and I paint with them a lot. But God knows that may be why I never win. I don't know. But my visual blue-green vision is totally different from half the world. And that's my reality, that's my truth. And that's your truth. And never the twain will meet. Because I'll never see what you see.
Doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter.
Well, to the judge it matters. Didn't need to be judged by men. That's true.
Tom?
Yeah, I heard quite a bit here, I think, one of the better discussions we've had.
Can't hear you. Yes, speak up a little.
Somebody said the truth will set us free. I'd also say non-examined life is not worth living. And then change is a constant. It is the only constant. And I think these are all, I hear a lot of ideas and opinions, some truths, some facts, but I think it goes back, at least for me, to go back and examine all these things, put them in perspective. How do these things affect my life? In other words, finding truth for myself will set me free psychologically. And that doesn't mean that, but then, as Bruce, I think, said, the only constant is change. But I know for myself that truth will change for myself. And if I'm okay with that, then I'm okay with my life. Now, if a new thing, quote unquote, or a new fact, quote unquote, or a new opinion comes across that makes me rethink what my truth was 10 minutes ago, I'll be open to maybe changing that. But in that moment, that's my truth. But I'm going to be open to a possibility that truth, again, will change. And for me, that brings me a lot of peace. Because once you say, I have got the truth, I have got the truth, I am no longer going to examine my life. If I say I have the truth at that time, then I will continue to examine. But I see a lot of people, not necessarily, not willing to do that. They get a truth, they're going to stick to it. I saw that happen last week in this group. And that is very, it can lead to a lot of chaos if I'm going to stick to my truth at your expense. Because my truth is better than your truth. And that causes a lot of problems. So I think you have that openness to reevaluate what is true.
Kathy, I'm going to take what Tom just said a little further because we read a lot of the same scripture. A very, very wise man once said, if you can listen with open ears and open heart to what is being said, listen without a preconceived idea or a desire to answer. Don't form your answer. Listen to the words. Then you can see how those words blend with your beliefs and the path that you are following. And they can and will change your truth. But again, it's like Tom said, the next time you listen with an open mind and open heart, you can change your truth again. Because it is not an absolute.
I'm next. And when my friend John here was speaking, he said something that kind of surprised me for him. Because I think I had this discussion a few years ago in regard to reality. I did a discussion on reality. To me, I think truth and reality are similar, if not the same. And this pencil trick you did brought back what I always thought when you said, it's always the way it was. Truth is always the way it was. I believe that with everything that's in me. I think truth is. And we all have our own perspective, reality, and come together and we are in here and we're sharing ideas and it might broaden our understanding of truth. and hopefully it does, give more depth or scope to it. I think of us like spokes in a wheel, the hub being truth, and all those spokes being all of us with our input, put it that way, or our experience of whatever you're experiencing. So that's all I wanted to share. You brought back old song memories. Okay, Mark.
Okay, well, it seems like the most important thing, if you're going to try to get together and learn and believe what's true, or what's actual, maybe I should say, is you have to separate perception from truth. I don't see why we can't have two words. Don't call it truth if it's not absolute and always present. Call it perception, and you can always say that, well, we all perceive this, or half of us perceived it this way, the other half perceived it that way, and you don't have to find out every minute of the way where the truth lies. You can just know that there is a truth there, and we're all striving to find it, and we don't have to get into big arguments over it if we just call it perception instead of truth. How many people would be willing to do that in this room? Call it perception instead of truth?
Absolutely not.
Why?
I don't know.
Why not?
It's just a word. Let's not get all tangled up.
Well, the problem is we have to be dealing with the same words. We're going to use the word fact, and Joe keep using different words for truth, and still get anything.
All right, for
Whatever.
you, may I ask you this question? For you, what is truth?
Something that's always present. John put it out really well, I thought. You did also. And we don't always know what it is. We don't have to know all the time, and our perception of it is going to change through the years, and my perception might change differently than somebody else's, and it might be differently at any given time. So it's not a truth at that point, unless everybody can agree, maybe not even then, because back in the flat world days, they didn't agree then. Or they did agree, and they weren't right, I should say. Yeah.
Andy, you're up.
Yeah, this is a great topic, and in my opinion, I think, like I said, I hinted at Banana Republic, propaganda, indoctrination. I'm only 51 years old, and it's mind-blowing, the indoctrination, the propaganda. I mean, in only my 51 years of life, I actually remember what a little bit of freedom was. I was in high school, I used to smoke dope, speeders, acid. I even used to sell it a little bit, right? You know, and they didn't freaking crucify me on Facebook, in the paper, put me in. I know a guy had 2 joints on him. They put him in jail for 2 joints. They put people in jail for a freaking bowl with no pot in it.
Yeah.
And people think this is normal. Did you know drugs used to be legal in America? What the fudge? And now we have with this propaganda and indoctrination, drugs are so bad. Really? Alcohol's a drug, that's legal. We tried to ban that one time, look how that ended up. That was the worst experience we ever did. In fact, actually the war on drugs is actually even worse than that. The indoctrination, it just, you know, I did like I was saying, I'm an activist too, and I do videos on YouTube, and you know, I tried to figure it out one time, what has happened, and what has happened in America is radio, TV, movies, even the internet's being affected now. I mean, Google and Facebook are literally shifting your thoughts. You know, they'll let you post this, but not this. You know, so if you see more of this, you actually do start to think different. Indoctrination, propaganda, it's just, I'm really bummed. Like I said, I'm only 51, I'm awake, and then I see so many people that, you know, older than me, that grew up in freedom, less taxes, less government, all that crap. And now they think what we have now, which is not freedom, everything is illegal and you are not free, period. I mean, literally everything's illegal. All of us sitting here are probably breaking 3 different laws, either local, state, or federal. That is nuts.
You're reaching the capacity in the room. It's horrible.
Yep. So,
exactly.
So,
he's right.
So this is a great topic, and like I said, I did a video on it, and like I said, one thing that I found it's radio, it's TV, it's movies, and only in that little space of time they could indoctrinate is so quick. And just like somebody said, 911. everybody believes that it was the Saudis and that nobody else had nothing to do with it. Wow, okay, a building came down all by itself, okay. You know what I mean? So it's just really sad, mind-blowing, and that's all I got.
Blair?
John D. had indicated, I think, to the group it was only a 10 there, and he said that I think the group couldn't verify that it was only a 10 because he was holding it behind Sunny First. Or if they don't see the 10, I don't know how they could verify it, other than to accept the research. Well, yes, I believe they were only a 10.
That was the point.
Okay, Robert. No, I'm sorry, Bruce first and then Rabbi.
Yeah, just on your point of taxes, actually taxes in this discussion would be a hell of a lot higher, almost to the point of conflict story, 80%. So, I mean, you know, things change. As I said, the only thing that's constant is change. You know, you do have to pay for something, and they didn't build the roads, schools, and other things without taxes. I mean, total libertarianism, 100% libertarianism is nihilism. So I don't know where you're going to take that for what it's worth. But one of the things that I wanted to say was things change so much. Even that we were just discussing, even the hard sciences, you know, gravity, you know, things like that. And then you have the soft sciences like psychology. Man, you can't get two people to agree on any of that, you know. And it's just, you know, different schools of thought of psychology, theories and things like that. Oh my God.
Called job security.
Exactly. So, I mean, you're going to have an awful lot of controversy on what truth is. Also, too, on one other thing, too, that, pushing aside, they discovered a new glue. It's only in the laboratory, but there's a new glue. I would like to see what that glue is, but they can't reproduce it.
They can't reproduce
I heard there was a new
it.
black too, like a blacker black.
Yeah, ours is
Robert.
As much as I disagree with John, in our afterlife, we will, our atoms will mix together and be buddies. And that's the truth.
And all be in the land of the skunk.
That would be good. When I first started going to these cafes, many years ago, about 15 years ago, it was a retired high school teacher that was in the room in GORDA, and he said, I remember this like it was yesterday, he said, we all have a filter on our forehead. And when we get information, it goes through that filter. And that filter is designed to filter out any information that does not support our position. And information that does support our position goes right into the brain cells and reinforces our position. So this is especially true in politics and religion.
Confirmation bias.
Called confirmation bias, that's right. And this is really a very important thing to be aware of, and that's what my subject is going to be on.
I know.
Anyway, but that's a very important thing to just only to be aware of, not to believe it happens to you, because I know that we are all superior thinkers. But you know, there's a possibility it could happen to someone else, maybe. The other thing that I absolutely know for sure is men and women are different. Not only do we see different colors, we see colors. I mean, I can get dressed in the morning and you know, things don't match up the way they're supposed to match up. But I know that you know, men are from Mars and women are from Venus.
That's a generalization.
Well, but it's my truth.
Perspective, right?
And you made the point perfectly.
And I.
Okay, Ellen.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, first, I'd like to thank David Shumway for explaining to me why Cialis filter the color.
So you can.
But anyway, well, there's blue, and he said men don't see blue very much. But actually, what I really want to say is this thing, I'm speaking of what Joseph said about papers and so on being based on whether the peer review has approved them or not. You know, the strange thing is, if we relied on peer review for everything, our world would still be back in the 17th century. I mean, if you tend to have an innovative mind or be an inventor, you realize how hard it is to get people to change their minds about scientific facts. I mean, they're wrong. And I was a patent attorney amongst other things, but there was one guy that 100 game winner, 100 U.S. patents, and I asked him, kind of what his technique was. He said, the first thing is, I assume that everybody's always been wrong.
Probably. Okay, Gary?
A lot of you touched on what I wanted to say. You know, this is part of it. What I said about genetics, and you were saying about men and women seeing different things. You know, and as far as when we listen to the news, you know, how we're affected, how we... You see, the thing is, we have to allow someone's information in, and then we judge ourselves by comparison to it, whether they know more than we do. Because if we're pretty sure about our truth, their supposed truth doesn't really affect us. And it's a very simple example. All the science people here, maybe you can correct if I'm wrong, but we used to use a graduate cylinder that, it's a cylinder with lines on it that measures the volume, okay? And unfortunately, I was paired with the smartest kid in school, in high school. He was brilliant. So I went over to the lab, and he puts 20 milligrams into a solution of 40, and it went up more than 20. It's supposed to go up, if you put 20 in milligrams of weight, it's supposed to go up 20 milliliters of volume. But his went up 40. See? So look, I discovered something. And he's all this is his truth now. Because he's the smartest kid, and I'm kind of one of the lowest ones. So I'm looking at him, and I said, well, and I pulled his starter out of the tube. So you see, like you go last week when I was talking about 9/11 and all this, and everybody's getting all upset about it. I just try to look at things, you know. I'm like my dog in a way. I have a puppy. I tell him some things and go side to side. You know, I don't know the truth. You know, it's like, prove me wrong. Great. I'm not going to be angry at you. It's like if you can make sense of it, if I'm in the capacity to absorb it, I can say women are superior to men. Now, a lot of men are not. A lot of men.
That goes without saying.
Okay. But I mean, here,
you're not married, right?
Tell the truth.
I have 42 years of undermanagement.
Micromanagement.
Hannah?
If you said dogs were smarter, I'd agree with you.
Hannah?
So if we talk about truth, it kind of insinuates that there is a wrong, and if there is absolute truth, and then there must be a wrong, but it depends on what you believe is wrong, I guess. Like, the scientists can say that it's gravity, but you can still believe that it's the witch's magic that's keeping you on Earth. Like, they can't prove that there's not a witch out there keeping us on this Earth. So, even if we know that that's fact, that there doesn't necessarily mean that everything else is wrong. And when we talk about truth, we've been talking about the truth in now, and everyone's truth in the future. Like, let's say I believe that the way that we use our earth is not sustainable, and if we keep using plastic and putting carbon dioxide into the air, then bad things will happen. But there could be another person who doesn't believe any of that. And when there is no fact because it hasn't happened yet, then there is no truth. You can't, it's a prediction. And there's like a high probability, but there's no truth because it hasn't happened yet. And you can believe anything that you want to believe, but the truth isn't necessarily there because it's not real yet. And so when you say that people listen to things and they have a filter, like I just finished reading Frankenstein, and with the two thoughts and beliefs with you only use the best scientists, Frankenstein created something out of dead parts because he decided not to listen to anyone that was telling him that it was wrong or impossible. So you can't always improve in science by listening to your society and thinking that everything that your society has to tell you is correct.
What about cloning people?
What about what?
What about cloning people?
Good idea.
Well, we already cloned something.
Yeah, okay.
That's a whole issue. I don't think my answer to.
We're talking about making things like Frankenstein. We can do it.
Well, let's see, just a few points. I guess on Mark's idea of perception, I think if you looking at that wall, for instance, if you had an artist and an architect and a decorator and a scientist all looking at the wall, you'd get four different opinions, including the scientists maybe talking about the atoms.
What about the Mexicans?
I wanted to, so it is in somebody's experience, where they had the opinion of the opinion of the wall. It is in their point of view and in their experience, and they can report it, as the truth of decorating or something, or as the truth of science, I don't know. But I wanted to go to Hannah's scenario where the woman got robbed and then made an assumption about all black people are robbers. But there was an initial truth. I mean, the woman was standing there, and the man was black, and he was standing there, and then her purse was gone, and that was about it as far as the truth of it. Everything else was just conjecture and causes a hell of a lot of problems in this world and in our country because of those things. And Kathy was talking about a quality of listening and hearing, that somehow that would bring understanding, but I'm not sure about that. Because just the silence of listening and hearing, and however that's registering inside of you, I don't know if that gives you really what the speaker was saying. I mean, I think it would have to require conversation, an active sort of listening where you actually delved in before you could probably be sure that you heard or listened to what the speaker was saying. And then there's one more thing, and I can't really remember how this goes, but Lao Tzu, he talks about, for instance, a door, and that door, I guess, I don't know how he says it, but something about, maybe it keeps things in or keeps things out. but the actual function of it is the space. It isn't anything without it being nothing, so that you can get in and out of it. So, make what we want of that, so there is truth in that what we don't see is actually what is the usefulness of the thing.
Craig,
We all talked about one constant being change. We all realize change, even the mirror, okay, something's changed. There's another constant. I've not met a man or a woman that can create anything out of nothing. I went to the beach the other day and I picked up all the sand. I looked at all the sand. I go, I can't count all these grains of sand. And I don't know one man that's created anything out of nothing. Nobody. Not in all of history, not in any of my forecasting or visions that I have. And I'm in awe of that. And I look out over the ocean and I take one drop of water and I go one drop in all that water. And I don't know, man, the feelings they created it. So that's a constant there for me. I call it a power greater than me. I call it God, whatever. The name's El Shaddai, whatever. But there is something that's greater than all men that I've ever met or read about. And we can take things and mix them together and make something. Voila, we co-create with God. So that's the other constant that I wanted to mention.
Dave.
To take this to the soft science, we used to call this left brain, right brain, which isn't true, by the way. We figured out much more than that.
I learned it in the textbook.
But, there are people in this world who are comfortable only with objectivity and concreticity and absolutisms, and are more rigid in thinking and tend to go into math and sciences kind of things, and are of that worldview, of that personality type, if you will, of that ilk. And whether they're raised that way or genetically that way is about probably 50-50. The other people in the world go into English and history and philosophy and the soft sciences and tend to be comfortable with relativity, soft physics, we call it fuzzy thinking, fuzzy physics. That it's a spreadsheet, and if one thing changes, everything changes, and there are whole ways of looking at the world that way too. And one doesn't make the other right or wrong, and they're both dependent upon each other to maintain a society. But I think some of us need truth, often of their own making. We make it up as we go, and we, as chorus says, we believe our own bullshit. But I think there are bullshitters on both ends. I think there are relative truths and concretistic truths, and these people tend not to hang out together much. I think there's a larger need in these directions of personality and worldview.
The other day.
Just a quick comment, a little off topic, but someone else made the comment that libertarianism is the same as libertarianism is the same as nihilism. I'm not exactly sure the complete definition of nihilism, but the only consensus I've seen in libertarians is the non-aggression principle, which simply states you don't initiate aggression on others. I don't see where that would lead to nihilism. I'm just wondering.
Oh, well, to me, it's a part of the libertarian movement. It's no government, or as little government as possible. And to me, as I was pointing out to another lady that was not present here when we talked about this, is that when I get on a plane, I'd like to know that somebody actually looked at that there was a rule or regulation that said, you're gonna have a mechanic go over that plane and make sure that's flyable. And when I get in the car, I'd like to know that the brake system on that was designed and put into that car, there was some rule that said, okay, we're gonna make this brake, work pretty much all the time. If you're going, one of the things that bothers me about it is the libertarian says there's too many rules and regulations. And that's fine, there probably is. The only problem with libertarianism is that they want to take away the very agencies, so that even if you do see around the rules and regulations, they want to take away the agencies that oversee it, so that if you do that, you're going to have rule by body count. In other words, you get your car and there's no rules on how to do that, so many thousands of people die, well, they're going to say, okay, there's a rule, but then there will be no agency that will oversee that. Companies that produce those cars will actually put that rule in place. That's where I have a little problem with libertarianism. I mean, really libertarianism.
Isn't your argument based?
I understand, and when I told him that true libertarianism, 100% libertarianism is nihilism, that's what I meant. I mean, you can go this thing to the nth degree, and it is insane.
But your argument is based on the fact that only government can do this thing, but the private...
Oh, yes, and I understand that, but what you're getting at then is you're gonna have to do it in the private sector, take GM, with that switch little problem they have there. And, I don't know, well over 100 people are dead.
Okay, Bruce.
But they're, you know, even if there's not rules and regulations, people are gonna die.
We're way off.
Bruce, this should just be a short little interlude. And he had one too.
I have one directed to
And make it
libertarian.
short, and then we'll continue on.
There's a place called Libertarian Heaven. It's called Samaya. There's absolutely no regulations. You're free to protect yourself, find your own free clean water, make your own rules any way you want to live. Everything is up to you, man. I mean, everybody is free to live as they wish.
Okay.
And what we're finding is true.
Yeah, I want to go back to this young lady said a long time ago about the two groups, relative, absolute.
More about facts and what you perceive and believe, because a fact is a truth. I know that my purse is sitting right here and that's a fact. But I can believe that my purse is orange, but it's really blue. Or I can believe that the government is against me when other people can believe that the government works for me. So what I was talking about was our beliefs and perceptions and what science people expect.
Okay, and I think, that pretty well says, I see things in a relative sense, then I can see things differently. But if I say they're absolute, so one is a relative. In other words, you look at some of the great scientists, you look at Einstein, for example. I mean, he learned, I think, I don't know that much about it, but he learned a lot of his science from Newtonian physics. He comes along and he says, well, wait a minute, now there's something beyond that. It isn't just straight line, and he didn't say that Newton was wrong. He just expanded on it, and he saw that things are relative. E equals mc squared. So, and then you have quantum physics comes along, and they go beyond even Einstein. So all these things that were fact, true, turn out to be only under circumstances that they were delivered. And once they found out, they didn't negate that. It's still, as far as it goes, it's true, it's fact. But that's not the end of it. So you have to keep that openness that things can change, even though Newton was great, and Einstein was great, and quantum physics is great, and that'll probably change too with new thinking. But if I think we have it proved, they would never have gone beyond, and therefore,
what's interesting is that Einstein didn't work it out logically with a Tesla. He incited to the conclusion and went backwards.
Keep playing, past dimension.
He listened to it twice.
Okay, I just want to throw out, truth is really a relative thing. And the example I'm going to give, I think shows just how wrong truth can be. I have a friend who lives in rural Georgia, and I got an email from her this morning, and she was just sick to be tied. She got on the bus, and she took the last seat. And a fella got on the bus, and he grabbed her by the arm, and he told her to get to the back of the bus, that this was Trump country now, and women Now, I don't believe that Donald Trump has ever said, do that. But that man that pulled her out of the seat, that was his truth.
But he was crazy.
That's
He's living in my
But it took two other passengers to get them off of her, and they get through him on. But the point is, he believed what he was doing. He believed,
schizophrenic.
because of the election, that the whole status of women has changed.
You want us working to make them.
It's only wish. Now it's verbal.
You'll hear some things in there.
Okay, well, okay. Just getting back to the lady that was, robbed, one of the things I heard many years ago was that a conservative is a liberal that just got mugged. Anyway, getting back to the libertarianism, I just wanted to say that his idea of Somalia is excellent, but I also like China. That's a hell of a lot more progressive country than, say, Somalia. But they have real deficits, because one of the things that they don't have there is they have rule by commissars and not the rule of law. And that's what makes this country so good, is that we have the rule of law here. We have a level playing field, or a level you can possibly do it. That's why companies and people like to come to the United States, because we have at least a semblance of a rule of law and some,
civilization.
Yeah. In China, they hate the people that make the food and deliver it, because they never know what the hell is in that stuff. It's so adulterated with all kinds of crap that they would cheerfully buy it anywhere else in the world than buy many local sources. We are still dealing, to this day, with all that damn drywall they told us. They're still trying to get rid of those buildings that they put that drywall in. Because everything is not only the drywall that has to be removed, it's all plumbing, the wiring, everything that's in that building. It's amazing. So when you don't have total, when you have libertarianism, and they hate this rules and regulations, so it gets in the way. But let me tell you something. Not having a rule of law and not having rules and regulations to make that a level playing field makes it really, 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 really tough.
Okay. Q. I gotta move it along, we're getting close to our dinner.
Well, I want to touch on the objective versus subjective statement. The God idea, the rule of law, all these things are involved. If you ask yourself, if you recognize that you're dealing with subjective ideas, truth is a subjective idea. But if you're dealing with that, ask yourself what it is that you don't know. Where are you ignorant? Can you do it? Can you even explain how you go from what you know into what you don't know? And I will say that some people have done it with the unconscious mind. If you're working on a problem, you stew over it, and people suddenly see it, the answer, then they're stuck with how to go from this obvious answer to the logical, because you're going to have to explain it to other people as well. But ask yourself, I tried to write a book on what I didn't know. And I can tell you.
That's a great idea. Great idea.
Well, get outside of yourself and look back and see what the hell is it I don't know. I can say mathematics is one way, but the God idea is also intrinsic in us in the I don't know, recognizing your own ignorance, but recognizing that we have a common will to improve the odds for your survival. There's where the rule of law comes in.
Yeah.
It makes the chances that you'll survive a hell of a lot better.
Well, I had one guy tell me that, to make a point, and he said that everything I knew was wrong.
Yeah,
So there you are.
we need it.
I believe that.
Well, that too.
Okay, Gary?
Okay, mine's real simple. Based on the rule of law, based on last week's meeting that we had, a certain parameter of rules, I will donate a gavel to whoever is sitting in the position, because...
I handled it okay.
No, you did. Perfect. But many times you needed something to like...
Well, I just raised my voice. I got
You
a
know,
big voice.
I
raised 7 kids.
That's all. If anyone agrees, I'll donate a gavel to this stop and then show, this court.
I'd like to say something before we...
Wait a minute, Dave is next, and then you can...
Well, he's,
We're done. Oh, I'm sorry. You hit me over.
One of the reasons that the topic that I wanted to discuss today was what is truth. Because there's been a topic that I've been searching for the last few years about truth, about a particular topic. All right? And everybody kind of mentioned it a little bit, touched on it here and there. But from what I have found through studying of evidence, it's all based on conjecture, theory, and assumption. I want to tell you a quick testimony. One of the things that I've done over the last couple of years, I have actually decided to find out exactly the truth about Creator of heaven and earth. Okay, I don't want to go into a religious thing, but I kind of figured, well, if he's going to call himself the Creator of heaven and earth, I want to know what heaven and earth is. All right? So I started studying about the earth. It's kind of weird that you guys touched on this round, flat, or whatever earth that we got. All right? Well, I'm going to tell you the truth. And I challenge anybody in here to prove me differently, because truth is based on fact and evidence. All right? And the opposite of truth is a lie. That's the opposite of truth. It is a lie. It is untruth. No, ignorance is ignorance. You ignore something deliberately.
Yeah.
That's ignorance. You ignore something deliberately. It's an action. All right, quickly, because we're getting out of time here. I want to share this with you.
So you deliberately don't know what you don't know?
Correct. And I challenge anybody here to prove to me what I don't know, because everybody seems to be sure that they know what it is. My sister is the social media director of NASA. Over 2 years ago, I specifically asked her for one question. Could you please give me a photograph, unedited, from space of the Earth? Because I grew up in the 60s, 50s, and 60s. I saw the Earth through the window of the space capsule, and it's perfectly spherical. Every image is spherical. It's not an oblate spheroid, it's not pear-shaped, it's not whatever they want to call it now. By their own pictures or images, it's perfectly spherical.
Did you measure it?
Really?
That's just it. I asked my sister, could you please send me a picture? Well, the day after I asked her that question, all of a sudden there was 10,000 images released on the NASA website of the Earth from space. And she says, check them out. So I started going through them. I got a whole couple other friends of mine. We got Adobe. We started looking at them. They're all CGI. Not one of them is photographed. Not a one. All right? Here's the truth. I don't know the shape of the Earth. I cannot prove it. No one can prove it to me. That is the truth.
You could walk around Earth.
I can walk
flew around it in an
What is
airport
around me?
3 times and came back to O'Hare Airport.
Pardon me?
I flew around it 3 times and came back to O'Hare Airport all 3 times.
Okay.
Everybody knows it's a tetrahedron, let's go.
I'm just saying, the simple truth is, nobody can prove it.
You know what the guy in the movie said? You can't handle the truth.
Right.
There it is.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for coming in today, I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Oh, I think we're done.
No, we're talking about.
I got together with Dan, so I'm not preoccupied.
People's idea of the truth was spoken, and one was that enjoying climate reduction. What was it, Somalia? Somalia was libertarian heaven. Well, can you prove to me that the Somalis follow the non-Russian president? I doubt it.
Can't anybody else so far.
Now, let's hear that, and then we're done.
We have two.
I don't have anything to say, except it's pizza, next.